What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and I'm here today to talk about the loot crate systems in Star Wars Battlefront, what EA has done, and what ramifications this is going to cause for the future. So this is kind of just a general discussion video. I've seen lots of other YouTube channels, What Culture Gaming, Boogie2988, Jim Sterling, all fantastic YouTube channels and fantastic personalities, talk about it and kind of give, their opinions as to all of this stuff, everything about this loot crate stuff, and I've watched it very carefully, and I kind of just wanted to talk a little bit about what I felt about the loot crate stuff in Star Wars Battlefront. So again, this video will count for a Star Wars special video if you're here for the giveaway. We're giving away Star Wars Battlefront 2, and if you don't know about that, make sure you check out our giveaway video, and then watch that, follow the rules, and this counts as one of the special videos. So let's talk about this controversy. So I'm going to kind of skip most of what people already know, because, this is an issue that people have pretty much already read a lot about, know a lot about. Star Wars loot boxes gave, at least originally, competitive advantages. You could buy things that really affected gameplay through loot crates, and then there was a big uproar. EA was, considered a greedy corporation. They took the loot boxes, loot crates out of the game, and all this stuff that's really happened since has been really crazy. So let's talk about what's happened just ever so recently. And again, there have been several YouTube videos talking about this. So if you want to know a little bit more about it, please check out, like I said, Boogie2988, What Culture, and Jim Sterling. Those three are really good at covering this stuff, especially Jim Sterling, one of the best out there. What do we have now is EA being investigated basically by governments talking about gambling. Is this gambling, and is this predatory? Hawaii state officials have gone after them and said that this is a predatory nature, that they're going after kids basically, where they don't know what they are doing really, right? They just want the items, and they'd be more susceptible to buying these loot boxes and spending unnecessary money really. We have Belgium officials, and we have a couple other officials. I think Sweden or Switzerland just got in on it too. So EA has really caused itself quite the problem all of a sudden here, and I think this is good. So where do I come down? Where does this just me? Now, Tyler talked about this in the review, and I get where Tyler's coming from. I am a little bit more critical on EA than he is, and that's completely fine. We're two different people, two different personalities on this YouTube channel. I do not like this one bit. Now, from my experience, and Tyler is right, from my experience playing the game, have I felt a complete disadvantage in the game from people that have open loot boxes to me not doing it? No, I didn't. Now, I'm not going to buy loot boxes when they come back out where you could use physical money. I don't even want to buy loot boxes with the game's currency. First, I want to unlock heroes and do all that kind of stuff first before I even start going into that. So, do I feel a complete disadvantage in the game? No, I do not. I think it's being a little bit pushed forward. I think people are making a little bit more of a big deal out of it than really it needs to be. I think it's warranted. I really do, because I think definitely it's a bad thing what they've done. This is a bad thing, and I'm glad they've stepped back, but here's the problem is it wasn't EA that did it. It was Disney. We've heard that Disney officials, Lucasfilms even had called EA and said, like, you need to stop this because look at all the bad press. Washington Post was writing articles, and while I don't like Washington Post whatsoever, that's a big news organization that can cause a lot of problems when a lot of people start to read it. So EA has really caused a mess, and this really speaks to loot boxes in general, right? This has become a trend in gaming over the last just year. Again, Jim Sterling did a video talking about how in the past, year and a half, we've had more games with these kind of systems in it than we've had in the past 15 years combined. This is an awful trend that will continue for the foreseeable future unless something like this has happened. That's kind of what I want to talk about in the future. What is this going to do? What has Star Wars Battlefront 2's mistake done? Well, the ramifications are definitely there. This game is selling very poorly. It's selling much worse than the 2015 Star Wars Battlefront 1. That's a good thing. Speak with your wallet. We always say, if you don't like a product or you don't like a message behind the company or whatever, you have to speak with your wallet. You have to either buy the product or not buy the product. And people have stood by that and not bought Star Wars Battlefront 2. And you know what? Hats off off to them because we cannot reward. And now, it's coming from a person, from me, who is giving away the game on the channel, from who had bought the game. I'm buying the game because I think it's an actual good game. I think behind all of the controversy, it's a really strong game. But the systems in place are not good. Now, am I glad that they're being looked into for basically gambling and talking basically that they're doing some illegal stuff in their games? Yeah, I like that very much because we cannot have this continue. Having these disadvantages in the game, and I'm sure there would be, if you buy or don't buy loot boxes, is a big, big problem. Furthermore, when you hear that EA has told their stock investors that they're not going to lose any money, they're not going to be financially hit by taking out the microtransactions in the game, paints a really weird picture because EA is the company that has said, ooh, games are too expensive to make, games are too expensive to make. And then they back that up by saying, well, we need microtransactions, we need paid DLC, we need loot boxes because games are too expensive to make. Well, firstly, I ask the question that, do you really believe a Star Wars game is not going to sell and make its money back? And it's a Star Wars game. Let's remember it's a Star Wars game. There's no way that wouldn't happen unless you royally F up like these guys have done. They've really messed up, and I think that's going to affect them. But besides that, so there's that part of it. And secondly, if games are so expensive to make, and that's the reason why you have microtransactions like this in the game, but then when you tell your investors that you're not going to be impacted by taking these things out, well, then you're either lying to your investors, which is not a smart thing to do, or you're lying to the general public. Now, which sounds more like EA to you? Lying to the general public. They don't need these. This is a greedy company. Here's what you got to remember is the people at the top of the decision-making in the gaming industry do not care about games. They don't care about you. They don't care about me. They don't care about really even the people they run. They don't care about the games at all. They care about money. That's just the bottom line. And that's the case with really the entire world, which I think people really need to realize is that they're not in it for you. They're in it for the money. And so when you have people at the top that are not even gaming smart people, and they make those decisions to put microtransactions and just charge head over heels for microtransactions, and then lie to you and say that it's because games are too expensive to make when they're not, then that's a serious problem. And so these people need to be stopped. And there's only really one way to do that, and it's to not buy their product. Star Wars Battlefront 2 is not selling well. That's a good thing. We need it to not sell well. Not because I don't like this game, not because I don't like Star Wars, but because EA is a huge, huge leader in the gaming industry, one of the big dogs in the gaming industry, and we need to prove that we will not accept this in the future. If this continues, we are going down a very bad road with pay-to-win models, which make a little bit more sense in free-to-play games, except that this is not free-to-play. It's a $60 game. That's the problem. That's always been the problem. This is a big, bad thing, and I'm glad that EA is being called over it. Is it sad that it's happening over Star Wars Battlefront? Yes, because you could argue a game like Need for Speed, which is a game that's really, really kind of pay to win, that just recently came out. That also, you could argue that has more problems than Star Wars Battlefront, but because it doesn't have the word Star Wars in it, people don't really care. It's a little sad we've let game publishers get away with this kind of stuff for this long and then kind of have this uproar when it happens to a Star Wars game. That's a little sad that we choose now to jump into it because this is a strong game masked behind all these issues. And currently, as it is right now, it's a good game considering there are no pay-to-win kind of models to it. But this is just temporary, and I'm sure there'll be... I don't know. I think they'll be put back in. I'm sure they'll be tweaked. I'm sure Disney will be keeping an eye on them because if they mess this up, they don't have to keep Star Wars with EA. That was their choice. I'm sure they could pull it away if they wanted to. So this is a big problem. I just want to kind of talk about it a little. This doesn't, influence my decision on the game and what I feel about the game. I really love this game. Tyler and I have been playing this game every single night. We truly, truly like this game a lot. I think I'll be playing it for a very long time. But I'm glad of what's happening. I'm glad they're getting called out by literally state officials. And this is going to kind of have, people with a lot of power watching over the game industry, which is dangerous. I'm not saying that's not dangerous. It is dangerous. But for now, I think it's a good thing because hopefully right now companies are walking on eggshells, figuring out, well, how are we going to put pay-to-win stuff in this game. Now, maybe we don't do it at all. You see CD Projekt Red saying we'll leave the greed to others, and that Cyberpunk 2077 is not going to have pay-to-win stuff or any kind of loot boxes, any, whatever comes in the game is the game. You get it all. And you see companies now and developers saying that more and more over the past week. Clearly, there's a divide now. There is the developers that are going to want to say they're completely against it so that people know they can trust them and they can win a lot of popular support just by doing it that way. And then at the same time, if you're a game publisher or if you're a game developer, and normally it's not the developer that does this. This is not DICE's fault. This is EA's fault. But when you have a publisher that's hell-bent on putting this kind of model into their games, like EA has publicly stated that they're going to try and do with every game, including their next Battlefield, so just so we know, we'll have this conversation again next fall. When you have companies like that, they're going to have to be very, very careful about how they do this because the eyes are all on them. Now we have state officials talking about gambling, illegal. Now we have people just in an uproar saying that we don't want this, and this is good. This is speaking with your wallet. This is the kind of controversy that I think games needed and continue to need in order to fix them. This is the thing that really a lot of things need in order to fix them is an uproar, an actual upheaval of how we do things. And we'll talk about more of that in just other videos. So I want to know what you guys think about this problem. What do you think about EA? What do you think about Star Wars Battlefront 2's loot boxes, loot crates? Do you care? Does it affect you? It doesn't really affect me. I just kind of want to talk about, I think, the bigger picture in all of this. It hasn't affected my experience at all in the game. It hasn't affected Tyler's either. But I just want to talk about the ramifications. That does not mean the ramifications aren't there. That doesn't mean what they've done is not bad. It's definitely bad, and I think it paints a bad picture for gaming going forward if they continue it. So let us know what you guys think about all that in the comments below. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Podcast Now, like and share the video, and I will see you guys on the next Star Wars Battlefront 2 video.